This game came out of nowhere, but what drew me in was how familiar the main character looking in the mirror was. It reminded me of Silent Hill 2. But this experience takes place in an alternate version of East Germany in 1984, spanning and starting as far back as 1966, and an argument can be made for it actually starting around World War II. I decided to take a chance on it, and I was glad that I did, because this story is like if you took the movie Inception, George Orwell's book 1984, then dialed up the sci-fi to about 8.9 and then blended them in together. I was unexpectedly gripped by my feet and dragged into this experience, but just like Inception and Interstellar, I had a lot of lingering questions, and I still do, but I wanted to go ahead and not only tell the story in chronological order, but analyze some of what I understood, how I did, and share the theories I have about what happened. In order for me to effectively do this, I geared the script more towards being informative and plainly stating what is happening, the references, or what I think is happening, over being descriptive for most of the story like I have with some of my other story explained videos, but don't worry, you're still gonna need to strap in for this one. If you played the game, hopefully some of you will have your questions answered here, either by me or by somebody else in the comments. Keep in mind this script was written and recorded a week after the game was released, so it's likely that new things would come to light before it could come to my attention. You will find that this is actually a psychological thriller in its original sense, not just the tagline for a game. The story is told in a disjointed way and has multitudes of levels and layers to it. By design, much of what one experiences won't actually make sense until the very end, and even then, it's a tough nut to swallow. But the developers did officially state that this is only the first game in the series, which means the following installments will provide more revelations, because even after this video, you, like me, will probably still have unanswered questions. Also, I have to warn you, Rachel has a very dark history that even made my mouth drop, visceral discomfort. But as always, my videos have chapters for easy viewing. If you like story explained and psychological analysis videos where we go beyond, my channel boasts an impressive catalog of high quality content you can binge while you do your chores. If you like this video, grab the like button the same way that this game grabbed me and smash it until it is discombobulated. But if you don't like the video, eat the dislike button up because you would still be helping me out, as all engagement is engagement, spoilers obviously ahead, and welcome to the mind-fucking story of
Karma, the Dark World.
War. War never changes. It begins as many horrors do, in the brutal aftermath of a great war. The year is 1945 and World War II has just ended. Europe is gutted. Bombed out buildings, scattered identities, broken governments, cities and citizens under heavy tensions, still recovering from the destruction that war always leaves in its wake. But in the shadows of this chaos, the Soviet Union initiates something quiet. Under their directive, two brilliant minds, Fred Ebert and Brian McGovern, form an elite group of scientists called Gold Rush. Now, publicly, it's a recovery unit. They're tasked with gathering and decoding classified wartime documents, a bureaucratic cleanup effort for the continent teetering on collapse. But privately, it's the seed of something much more dangerous. Because hidden in those documents are traces of experiments that nobody was supposed to see, very much less continue working on. And Fred, ambitious and forward-thinking, sees potential where others only see wreckage. For men like him, war is good for business. However, by 1949, Gold Rush makes a discovery that shifts the entire world's trajectory. Deep beneath the Winston Research Institute, 800 meters below the surface, that's half a mile in freedom units, they find multiple facilities, and whatever was happening down here, it ended violently. Because every researcher is dead, killed reportedly by unknown creatures, and at the center of it all, a crater, so I think it's safe for us to assume that something massive came from outer space and smashed itself into Earth. But something would begin to flow out of that crater, a black shimmering liquid. They would call it Dasein. Now, nobody can explain exactly what it is, but they see that it has high energy properties and can even resist entropy, death, and disorder. So Fred would see it and call it the key to the New World Plan, an initiative to rebuild fallen nations not through ideology but through control of reality itself. And by 1953, he and Brian presented the plan to their superiors. Use Dasein as a revolutionary energy source, not just to power cities but to reshape civilization. To nobody's surprise, the proposal is approved, and the USSR gives them the green light. With that, a new project begins, again, quietly, behind the scenes, called Mother. At first, nobody hears about Dasein. The world never hears about Mother, but Leviathan does, and they're watching. Big Brother was watching. Mother is watching. May 26, 1956, Daniel McGovern is born to Brian and Michelle. On paper, it's a good life. His parents work in advanced research. They're close to the heart of the Mother Project. Leviathan acknowledges what they've given to science, and their names are held in high regard by the emerging powers inside of Leviathan. But in reality, this doesn't end well for anybody. And by 1965, Leviathan Technology Corporation was no longer just a contractor. They were becoming the official law and order in East Germany. The Winston Research Institute, once a state facility, is now fully under Leviathan's control. The corporation owns the buildings, the funding, the science, the people, and the mother system, originally built to study and direct energy flow, was being repurposed for something darker, manipulating thought, rewriting memories, altering the mind. It's around this time that Rachel, another brilliant researcher, applies to work for Leviathan, but her story, unbelievably twisted and tragic, will come later. But she does join Brian and Fred in studying the Dasein. The substance shows signs that it can reshape more than just physics, that it can reshape lives, human beings. Then comes 1966. There was an accident. Not a public one that was kept under wraps. A miscalculation, maybe just too much ambition, or perhaps a certain kid being a kid. Whatever was the cause, the result was an explosion. It wasn't lethal, but it did involve both Daniel and his sister, Lisa. This would be one of the key events that sets everything into motion, because something changed in Lisa that day. Something nobody could fully understand, and Leviathan takes notice. And I don't think that they like that Brian kept this from them. 2 years later, the nightmare begins. March 24, 1968. Brian McGovern and his wife, Michelle, as well as their children, Daniel and Lisa, were at home. Daniel states that his father was mad at him since it happened. This makes me think that Daniel, being a kid, did something to cause the Dasein accident. Maybe he pushed a red button or something. But Fred would be the one to rat and report to Leviathan about the accident, and that it also involved the two children. So Leviathan would barge into their home, and among them was Fred. I still never learned why he betrayed them. Maybe it was for a promotion, but during this operation, Michelle, Brian's wife, was killed, while Daniel and Lisa were taken. No negotiations, no explanations, the family was just broken in a matter of minutes. I believe this has everything to do with the Dasein and how it could have possibly affected Lisa and potentially Daniel. I think they knew what Dasein was capable of, and they wanted to make sure that they were in control of whatever happened with the kids. And what actually did end up happening was the Dasein imbued Lisa with vastly immense powers, seemingly reality warping and psionic abilities. She uses her powers to kill most of the Leviathan intruders. harming Brian's left side of his body in the process. And by the way, it is horrific in the way that she kills them. She crumples one man, gives two of them the Thanos treatment, and then stops an onslaught of bullets before making the other guys disappear. That is wild. And probably psychologically scarring for all of that to happen to a kid, not just to see her family being ripped apart, but her needing to kill people. She faints due to exhaustion, and with more men coming in, they take Daniel and Lisa away, with Fred telling them to make sure that Daniel has his memories wiped so that he doesn't grow up seeking revenge.
Took you and Lisa. Stop! Stop, you!
Should we bring this child back to the company?
Remember to wipe his memory clean. I don't want him seeking revenge. Why does this place smell so bad? You deserve it.
Oh, no, Michelle. I've lost everything.
This is the moment that changed everything for Brian, because he lost his beloved wife and his two kids. This is the day that began his silent, calculated path towards revenge. The very next day, March 25, both children, Lisa and Daniel, are taken to the corporation, disappeared into the depths of the system. Daniel never sees his sister again. During his indoctrination, Daniel is tested to see if he has powers. Concluding that he doesn't, Mother reprograms him.
I was brought here. I recognized their outfits. They took my sister too. I've never seen her again since that day.
Welcome. I am Mother. Next, we will use a series of images to show you the nation in which you reside and your future. Before we arrived, your nation was ravaged by a terrible war. People lived their lives in perpetual fear. When the Leviathan Corporation came, everything changed. We brought hope.
8490. Your newborn social ID is 8490. You were born into an ordinary family. Your father was an outstanding scientist. Your mother was his assistant. They made considerable contributions to the company through their research. Please try to push the blocks over without touching them. Very well. Seemingly ineffective. Please try to see the images on the backs of the 3 cards on the table to your left.
I don't know.
Understood. Please look to your front. Please indicate the viewpoints that you think are wrong.
Right. Left. Flowers. Left. Left.
Please repeat your answer.
left.
This is your final chance. Please tell us your decision.
Right.
He's told that his parents were loyal scientists who gave much to science at Leviathan, and that his parents passed away. They even brainwash him to make him forget that he has a sister. That past becomes a blank file. And Leviathan begins turning him into something useful to them. A vessel, a tool, an agent for the Thought Bureau, an observer, a Nightcrawler. But to understand how everything converges and how Brian releases his karma virus on Leviathan, it's important to understand two more characters and their roles in the story, Rachel and Sean. Before she was a scientist, before Leviathan, before Dasein, Rachel was a prisoner in her own home. Her parents didn't see her brilliance as something to nurture, they saw it as something to fear. Fear that she might leave and they would be left out on their own. She had always been sharp, smart enough to work at the Research Institute, smart enough to study with the best minds in the Leviathan Corporation, and in 1965, Leviathan saw that too. Now they offered her a position, wrote letters, reached out, called her, but she never got those letters, not a single one. And do you know why? Because her parents intercepted them. Every offer, every chance for Rachel to leave, they kept her caged and compliant. Not out of love, but out of profit. Because her parents were incapable of making their own money, so they had to rely on their... And I'm sorry, I just need to break away from the script here because this is just fucking disgusting. Abhorrent parents. This is some of the most fucked and demented shit that I've seen in a while. If there was an award for the absolute worst parents in all realities, I think these parents would be a strong contender. It is absolutely sickening to my stomach learning what Rachel's parents did to her. And pardon my German just now, but I think it's appropriate here. Her body became their currency. Her parents would force her to have sex with men, multiple men. So men came and they went. Rachel wasn't a daughter to them. She was just a commodity. They turned her into a prostitute. You don't do that to somebody that you love. You don't bring a child into this world just to do this to them. And every time that men would come over and do the deed with her, she would cry. And her parents would just tell her the same things. Stop crying, it's already done. I told you it would be easy, just take some pills. By the time that Rachel found the letters in 1970, 5 years had passed. 5 years of being sold, shamed, broken, pimped out, forced into prostitution by her own repulsive parents. By the way, if you're wondering where I got these dates, I'm going based off of the calendar in the kitchen, from her memory, and from Leviathan's letter of employment. On the top right, it says 1965. Again, not completely reliable since time works differently down here, but that is what I'm going off of in case you're wondering. To be fair, for poor Rachel, it probably felt like half a decade. But Leviathan, recognizing what she could bring to the table, hadn't forgotten about her. But her parents had done everything to keep her shackled still. They even moved her closer to the city so that her clients could reach her more easily. But that year, Rachel fought back. She contacted Leviathan again, had them send the letter to the new apartment instead of the old house. And when it arrived, she burned the apartment to the ground and ran. And Leviathan welcomed her in. She entered the Institute in 1970 as if stepping into a second life. There she began working along Brian McGovern, diving deep into the study of Dasein. But in the grand scheme of things, she was another scientist, and she would even recognize that the workers of the corporation were bred and encouraged to just be another robotic sheep that only did their job. Leviathan wanted Rachel to be the same exact way, despite her brilliance. But inside, Rachel had a bloody fire that wouldn't just go out like that. Eventually, she would meet Lucas. An experiment that she was working on broke out. She chased it, trying to find it. It happened to run into Lucas. Now, I wish this could be the perfect happy ending because this made me feel good to see. I wanted everything to turn out well for her, but in this dark world, light gets snuffed out quick, fast, and in a hurry. Now, Lucas wasn't like other men. He didn't want anything from her. He wasn't trying to use her, or fix her, or define her. Lucas was kind and caring. He worked at the Research Institute, at the botany lab. He was a gentle man in a brutal place, and for the first time in her life, Rachel felt seen, loved, not for what she could offer, but for who she was. So you have to understand how heartbreaking this is. I didn't expect to experience this when I went into this game. Rachel and Lucas dreamed of escaping together. They were going to get married, start a new life somewhere far from Leviathan's reach, maybe even far beyond her family's reach. But dreams don't survive in a place like this. Lucas wanted to meet her parents to get their blessing. Rachel warned him, but Lucas, the ever-optimist, wanted to believe that maybe things would have turned out okay, that love could have fixed what was broken. Her father shot him in the head, and just like that, the only good thing in Rachel's life was gone. From that moment on, Rachel didn't just hate her parents, she began to hate Leviathan. She blamed the corporation for everything. If they hadn't broken her father after the war, if they hadn't denied him veteran benefits, if they hadn't left people behind in pursuit of their perfect world, none of this would have happened, and Lucas would still be alive. The messed up thing is, right before he put a bullet in Lucas's head, her father scorned him, saying, "You think you can just take my daughter without paying?"
You have to hold on. Lucas, don't leave me. You promised me. My fault. No. Father, listen to me. What are you doing? No.
Die.
Said you couldn't live in a world without me. Now I'm the one who can't live without him in my life. We're two souls in a single body. We'll never be apart again, Lucas.
It's all over, Rachel.
I don't have much time left. Truth is over there. Please, let me be with him in our final moments.
I mean, damn, you know? But again, Rachel wouldn't just give up. Her grief twisted into obsession. And Dasein was right there, whispering possibilities. So, she tried to bring him back, over and over again, but each time, the thing that returned wasn't Lucas. It was a monster, a thing that wore his face but hungered for people, violent, unstable, corrupted by the very material she thought could save him. This is also not fully explained, but Lucas would become a monster that would feed on people. I don't know why people, but his hunger was increasing every single day, which meant he would have to consume more bodies every single day. Understandably, Rachel would still only love and see Lucas, so she protected him, kept him safe, kept him hidden. But it was detrimental to her. Through the Dasein, she was able to control him. But every time that they would connect, her body would deteriorate more and more. We can even see that she wears yellow gloves throughout the game. Now, by 1976, Rachel was dying. The exposure to the Dasein was irreversible. Her body was decaying from the inside. But she wasn't ready to die alone. So, she asked Fred and Brian to help her one final time. She wanted to place what remained of Lucas's consciousness inside of her own, so that when she died, she could die with him, together, even if only in thought and soul. She knew that the Dasein was somehow keeping Lucas's consciousness alive, but in that bigger body. Brian agreed, but only on one condition: to help him finish what he started, to help burn Leviathan to the ground. In order for Brian to do this, he needed to be extremely discreet. He could not let Mother know what he was doing. And so, they needed another piece to complete their puzzle, to set things in motion. Sean. Now, you see, Shawn Mendes wasn't a villain. He was a man trying to hold together the last pieces of a life that Leviathan tore apart. You see, Sean had been a physics researcher, specializing in the study of Dasein. He was intelligent, loyal, and good at what he did. Leviathan even trusted him with publishing his research in a paper. But all of that changed when he suffered a serious injury to his leg during a work-related incident. At some point, Lucas found Sean and ripped his leg off. But without evidence, Leviathan would reject his claim.
Fuck! My prosthetic! This isn't real. This can't be real. No, don't kill me. You've already taken one of my legs. What more do you want? I'm begging you. I have a kid. I haven't gotten to say goodbye. Cassette, don't kill me.
Not that they would try to give compensation to their workers. Of course, this is still a corporation. They declared it wasn't a workplace injury, and because he had taken 6 months off to let his leg recover, they demoted him, calling it absenteeism. No compensation, nothing, just a quiet descent from scientist to low-level clerk. That loss, his social status, his loss of income, was enough to unravel everything else. By the way, social standing matters a lot. You can be a low-class level D citizen or a higher class level B citizen like Fred was. For Sean, his wife left him, unwilling to ride the downward spiral. And now a single father was left trying to support a daughter on scraps. As a result, he would begin selling company secrets for money. Of course, he was caught and there were ramifications, but the most condemning one would be his role as a pawn in Brian's revenge. It was this history, the prior record of selling secrets, that made him useful to Brian. It would be easy to set him up and frame him as somebody who was stealing company secrets because he had already done so. Stay with me here. As part of Brian's plan to reach Daniel without alerting Mother, Sean was selected as a target for Rachel.
Professor, I have a request. I want to transfer all of Lucas's remaining consciousness to me.
Lucas, he has lingered too long at the gate of death. How do you know if his consciousness is still in his body anyway? Huh? Over the years, your body has been paying the price every time you manipulate his body to feed and conduct experiments.
Professor, I can sense him. I know there's still a part of him suffering in that body. I know you have a way, because you two are alike. You must know something beyond what science can do.
It's against the code of scientists. No, it's against the ethics of humanity. And even if I could, your body might not be able to take it. This is no easy task.
Professor, I'm grateful to you for giving me the chance to realize my dream. And because of that, I found the love of my life here. After what happened, you were the only one willing to help me and Lucas. I know you didn't do it purely out of kindness. There's something you're trying to achieve. All these years, I've never questioned your secrets or your plans because I've always believed in the things you do. But now my body, I don't have much time left. Professor, I beg you, all I want is to be with him in my final moments. I'm a dying pawn. I'll do anything for you in return.
You'll do this for him? Whatever the cost?
Whatever the cost.
All right, then. All right, then. You may have realized how Fred and I came to know each other. The fact is, many years ago, we were members of an organization known as Gold Rush. We were sent to this city and created everything here.
Daniel, Leviathan's agent. In 3 days, I will create an opportunity for you to attack someone.
Who?
Shawn Mendes.
Professor, I don't understand. Isn't he the one who...
I will create this opportunity precisely because he has those bad habits.
So I will put that pen recorder in his locker again.
But he's already...
I wouldn't feel sorry for him if I were you.
Shawn Mendes, a smuggler and a thief. He's as much a criminal as the others.
Do I need to kill him?
You just need to create a distraction and take the cassette from him.
I'll contact my people in Leviathan and tell them to bring Daniel here.
Once Daniel learns about what happened between you and Shawn, he'll surely notify the Thought Bureau immediately. Don't hesitate. You must go to the Bureau that very night and turn yourself in. Keep him busy with these crimes, but try not to arouse Mother's suspicion.
Professor, I can do it. As long as it helps your cause. But he's a Thought Bureau agent. If he sees my memory, he'll see you as well. Or is that what you want? For him to come and look for you?
I have faith in my children. They are my future.
The idea was simple. If they could set Sean up as a corporate traitor, Leviathan would send Daniel to investigate. And once Daniel was close, following the breadcrumbs in Sean's memory, which would then lead to Rachel's memory, leading Daniel to Brian, the real plan could unfold. And Mother would be none the wiser, unable to see this coming because it was layered so far deep. A memory inside of another memory, inside of another memory, inside of another memory. So Fred planted evidence in Sean's desk, making it appear that Sean had stolen classified company secrets again, and the story would check out. It didn't matter that Sean didn't actually do it, his record made him believable. Fred filed the report requesting Daniel specifically, and Leviathan responded exactly as expected. On April 30, 1976, Daniel McGovern was sent to the Winston Research Institute to investigate the breach.
Welcome. Welcome.
I'm Daniel McGovern, a Rome agent from the Thought Bureau. My company ID is 8490.
Rome, huh? I'm Fred Ebbett, the current chief of this facility. Welcome to the Winston Research Institute. It's the back door, to be precise. I often hear that you people don't talk a lot. I thought this was just an ordinary theft. I never imagined a case like this would trouble a Rome agent. Looks like there's more to it. You see, as a level B citizen, I'm familiar with your rules. Outsiders like me should not question, nor intervene.
Listen, Mr. Abbott. You only have to tell me where the mailroom is. I need to receive a document from the Thought Bureau right now. Please don't hold me up in my duties.
I know you're here to look into that freak, Shawn Mendes. To your left, in the room where the lights are still on.
He finds the planted evidence.
Well done, Rome Agent. Please turn in all evidence through the pneumatic tube. You will then proceed to interrogate the criminal who betrayed the company. But remember, if I serve...
I will echo.
Finds Sean, and following protocol, he initiates a brain dive. Inside, Daniel sees something strange. Not just the expected fragments of Sean's life, but signs of a much larger story. He sees Rachel, and he also sees how Lucas, corrupted by Dasein, inside of some chamber surrounded by bloody corpses, was unleashed in order to bring Sean to her. None of it makes immediate sense as you're playing it, but the pieces are there. A big part of this is obtaining a cassette tape. For you young people who don't know what a cassette tape is, or what A-track, B-track means, cassette tapes were like mini VHS tapes, or what came before CDs. And I guess if you don't know what a CD is, it was an ancient technology which contained data that could be viewed or listened to when put inside of their respective playing devices. You could listen to movies, watch music, but here, I think cassette tapes represent memories. I still haven't figured it out yet, but if you know something or have a theory, please let me know. May 1st, 1976, Sean dies during the brain dive. An hour later after Sean's death, Daniel initiates a second brain dive, this time into Rachel. She turned herself in, and buried within her memories, he finds exactly what Brian wanted him to find, a path. Not a direct message, not coordinates or a file, but something impossible for him to ignore, Brian's presence, or more specifically his own photo. Inside of Rachel's memories, Daniel saw his own picture. So he finds the secret meeting room with all the blueprints on a board for his plans and the document which shows the history of events leading up to the present day, The trap worked. Daniel was moving, asking the right questions, connecting the dots, and Mother hadn't stopped him, which gave Brian the opportunity to talk with Daniel. But all of this wasn't just for the purpose of finding his lost son, because Brian would use the Dasein to implant his consciousness in with a virus, calling it the Karma virus, and implanting that into Daniel's memories. The only thing that he needed was a crucial event in order to activate it, so that Brian could exact his revenge against Leviathan. We're going to talk about everything in more detail later on, but I wanted to explain another big revelation. You see, over the years, Daniel's body was kept technically alive in a tub filled with Dasein. Not only was the tub filled with it, but I think he was being injected with the Dasein, while simultaneously being hooked up to probably hundreds of wires to hundreds of roam agents, all attempting to invade his mind. He had been the subject of countless brain dives from all of the agents trying to extract secrets from him, secrets about his sister. They were all looking for the key to Lisa's powers. They wanted to weaponize her. This fractured Daniel's mind, severely eroding and wiping not only his memories but his identity. The real Daniel would create a version of himself in his own mind, whom we're going to meet at the very beginning of the game. This is old Daniel, a mental stand-in for the real world Daniel. He appears to be old because, again, time works differently here. On top of all of the mental invasions that deteriorated him, on top of the Dasein and alterations that Mother did, it would stretch time for him. Old Daniel would even explain that he'd been serving Mother for over half of his lifetime.
Who are you? What are you doing to me? Why can't I recall anything?
You don't know who I am? Mother didn't tell you?
I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Who the hell is Mother? I swear to you, I don't know a thing about you.
But that's impossible. For half my life, I have been serving her, one after another. You have never succeeded. None of you have. I put in so much effort to leave messages on the other side, yet none of you seem to care about them.
Hey, listen, this might be a misunderstanding. There are things I can't call to mind. I arrived here by accident. I can't be one of those people you speak of,
Only
right?
People can pass through the abyss. I cannot. I am trapped here forever. My memories... Wait, you're saying you lost your memories?
Yes, that's what I've been trying to tell you. I woke up in a room, passed through calibration, and ended up here.
You do seem different from them. Those useless people out there. All they care about is doing their jobs. Perhaps you may succeed. If you wish to retrieve your memories, this thing can help you. No, you won't be lost forever like them. They're failures.
Finding my memories? No, I think you've got the wrong person. I've explained it so many times. I did lose my memories, but I'm not one of those people you speak of.
Listen, Abba. I don't know how you ended up here, nor do I care. But you got here, and that means it's your mission. You must find your true memories.
You're insane! What are you doing? Hey!
You'll meet me again.
Look at me!
On the other side. In a different form. Good luck, Daniel.
Now, none of the agents would ever actually reach the real Daniel or find out the secret to unlocking Lisa's abilities, which we're going to go over later on. Mother would even have old Daniel, the real Daniel, try to help and guide the countless agents who were diving into his memories. This is where it starts to get a bit confusing, even more so. Even I'm kind of confused on the specifics, but let me explain why the real Daniel was helping Leviathan here in the first place. So, the real Daniel knew that he was trapped, unable to cross over back into the real world. He knew he would never be able to leave, and he would certainly never be allowed to die. Consequently, he wanted this relentless cycle to end, and he knew Lisa would need to be found in his memories, as Lisa in the real world was still contained. Both brother and sister were soul connected, and once Daniel dies, she would be free and her full powers would be unlocked. This was the secret. However, if one of the agents could find Lisa in Daniel's memories, the nightmare would end. But what else did old Daniel do in order to help the agents? Well, he would pot or grow clones of Daniel. These clones were called protos, and this is the medium in which the agents would dive into Daniel's mind through these vessels. I know that this is getting a bit jumbled, but let's recap this part. Leviathan agents in real life would dive into the real Daniel who's sitting in the tub. When they brain dove, they would enter a copy of Daniel, a proto. The old Daniel would then guide those agents inside of Proto Daniel into Daniel's memories by diving into Proto Daniel's memories. This is why in the beginning of the game, we have to sit in the chair and we're given a cassette tape to listen to, and we go into this sort of black hole. That is the second brain dive for the agent. And we can even see that old Daniel has all those monitors, and we see a bunch of corpses all around the lab. Those are other copies. I think this is also why back in the room we wake up in, we see the cassette tapes in the drawer, or at least I think it's connected if they represent memories. Since we're here, we also see a blurry photo of a family. This is Daniel's family photo, but because of all these psychological incisions, that memory is fading. Also outside the window, we see a dead Daniel who is in his Nightcrawler outfit, the same Daniel who would become the Rome agent, lying on the floor. If you zoom in, he's listening to a cassette tape. So you might be wondering, how exactly is Daniel making the protos, the clones? I think we can assume from what we see on this level that he is using Dasein in order to grow the protos. Note how the Dasein is splattered on the floor going into the tubs, where we see many copies of Daniel. Another little thing that I noticed here also is that all of these Daniels are in tubs, and in the real world, Daniel is in a tub. My question is, how is he using Dasein in this memory world? We even wake up at the very start of the game with something attached to our left arm that is injecting Dasein into us. But how is the Dasein here? For now, I'm just going to chalk this up to being unanswered, or I'd probably say that Dasein, the substance itself, is just the way that it is, because it is a reality warping substance that bends all laws of physics and planes of existence. But I digress. Normally, when an agent enters a clone, they still have memories of who they are in the real world and what their objective is, what their directive and mission from Mother is. However, one specific random agent goes in for a brain dive on December 27, 1984. The impossible thing happens here. This proto is different. This proto is empty. He enters the dive without any memories at all, not even a false identity. He doesn't know who he is as a Leviathan Nightcrawler who is in a brain dive, and he doesn't know who he is as Daniel. He is a completely blank slate. He doesn't even know who Mother is. Old Daniel notices this and then starts to feel hope, saying that he has constantly been trying to leave hints and send messages to agents on the other side, but none of them cared. Most just want to do their job and that's it. But with this anomaly sitting in front of him, he gives Proto-Daniel a cassette player, saying it's going to help him find his memories. That's when the agent, Proto-Daniel, goes through the entire puzzling journey we experience throughout this entire game. And I'm going to cover that in more detail. But I just wanted to lay the timeline out for everybody. I will say that this was the start of Brian exacting his vengeance, because through this mental network, as the agents get closer to the center of the web, Brian's final move would slot into place. Because inside of Daniel's mind, hidden way down in the abyss, the darkest voids of his memories, was the weapon, Karma, the virus. It's been waiting for years, buried beneath layers of memories and thought, and Brian designed this to detect and destroy all Rome agents, anybody connected to Daniel's psychic network. It was a psychic kill switch planted by the very man Leviathan once trusted. When a Nightcrawler dives and scans Daniel's memories to see this event, the Karma activates, unleashing pure chaos that would kill the agent. Now, when this does happen, the entire Leviathan dive program crashes in a matter of minutes. But one agent survives. The Proto, the empty one, the one who came in without orders, the one who saw Rachel's grief and Lucas's monstrosity, the one who would watch Sean fall, the one who met old Daniel and didn't turn away, the one that Lisa saves.
What happened to me?
I found you, intruder! I'm going to tear you apart! Run, kiddo!
No, this is not his destiny. Father. How about this? Give me some time. Behave yourself, Father.
You saved me.
However, what many may not fully realize or understand is that everything that the player experiences from the very start of the game up until the very end happens in the span of probably just a day. Knowing that we're in a memory, plus recalling that Leviathan has been altering and censoring everything that the agent sees, we can start to understand why the lines between reality and... Actually, I hate saying that. Everybody says it now. The line between reality and nightmares blur. It's so overused. But you understand why we see things like TVs on people's heads.
Animal traitors! I'm done. For the company!
Because we're just in a memory. I do think that there are some things that are real in the context of the game, like Dasein I think is real. Lucas being an actual monster is real, which is how he's able to attack and carry Sean to Rachel, and we're going to see more of him later. Now, with this brain dance, Daniel, aka the Rome agent, inside of Proto-Daniel, and trying to get into the real Daniel's mind, goes through all of the following events, which I will cover now, and this is going to explain the ride he goes on from the time he starts the brain dive until he ends it, where everything ties up. So, December 27, 1984. This is the start of the game. The Rome agent initiates his first brain dive, but something goes wrong. Instead of entering Daniel McGovern's mind directly, he ends up inside of a proto, a clone from Daniel's fractured psyche. And the second he arrives, it all vanishes. His memories, his mission, everything. He wakes up to a voice telling him to get up, followed by a gunshot. He has no idea who he is or what he's doing. The place just looks like a hospital, cold and sterile, and if you've been following the story in order, you already know who that voice is, Lisa. And that faint gunshot in the background, that is Michelle McGovern being killed, her mother, their mother, all the way back in 1968.
Wake up. Wake up.
In a panic, the agent rips a strange contraption out of his arm. Black fluid spills out of him, and we know it's Dasein, but on a first playthrough, it looks just like the WoW from Soma. Creeping, alive, and wrong. On the desk, you find a letter, cryptic and taunting, written by Daniel. And then we stand in front of a mirror, pulling a James Sunderland, staring into our reflection. And then when we glance outside, things only get weirder. A fake world sprawls beyond the window, off, staged, and lying there is a version of Daniel in the Rome suit just casually sunbathing. After calibration, seeing an image of Mother and a report explaining what protos are, you meet old Daniel. He says that he isn't important and that we need to find her. He's referring to Lisa. He tells you to sit in a chair, and then your pulse starts to climb. Just before he sends you deeper into the second layer of the memory, he says you'll meet again in another form, and then he calls you Daniel. Waking up in what I can only describe as the space between conscious memories, something I'll just call the unconscious from here on out, Daniel finds himself surrounded by a void. A cassette tape slowly rises in front of him, and he slots it into the player. The next memory begins to unfold. This seems to be how brain dives work. By listening to these tapes, we're able to dive into the memories. This one is labeled Lamb, and I think that's a nickname for Kid Daniel, whose memory we now see. This is the Indoctrination scene. Back in 1968, one day after he was ripped away from his family. Mother descends, speaking to Daniel like a deity dressed in corporate language. She explains that his country was once ravaged by war and that the people lived in fear until Leviathan arrived and brought utopia. Now, everybody serves her. Everybody serves Leviathan. During the eval, Daniel is told what his past is, and then he's tested to see if he has powers like his sister. This section, plus the way that Lisa and Daniel are connected, reminded me of another game called Beyond Two Souls. That same bond between siblings woven into something supernatural. I enjoyed that game. When they confirm that he doesn't have any powers, the real conditioning begins. They tell him to choose the right answers, but the right answer is whatever Mother decides it to be. It's not just a test, it's a warning. Any deviation, even a thought, that questions Leviathan is punished. And then, just to make it official, Daniel is handed a legally binding contract. It says that as a child he's incompetent, that he requires Mother, and that he's willing to give everything to his company. And so he willingly signs it, quote unquote willingly. They strip away his identity and replace it with obedience. Blinking to the future, Daniel is now a fully indoctrinated observer on his way to investigate a breach. He signs a task document, and in his internal monologue he admits that he's forgotten his old life, that everything he is now begins and ends with his job. But there's a line that stings. He says his mother would probably hate that he works for Leviathan because it makes him less human. It's April 30, 1976. Daniel has been working for the Thought Bureau for 4 years now. Walking into the Winston Research Institute, Daniel is greeted by Fred, who introduces himself as the chief of the facility. But Daniel doesn't care for small talk. He cuts right to the mission and heads for the mailroom. But knowing what we know, it's almost funny watching this unfold. Fred plays it cool, teasing Daniel a little, hinting that he might even know Daniel's superior.
I'm actually someone pretty important. I might even know your superior.
And the irony is thick because Fred is already deep in with Brian, Daniel's father, and Daniel doesn't even know it. After reading the mission brief, Daniel heads upstairs, but that's when things start to shift. In the hallway, something unsettling happens. He flips a light switch, and suddenly words appear on the wall. Don't look back. So naturally we do. And when we turn around, we see Daniel's own backside, except he's missing limbs, distorted and broken. Is it a warning? Is it a glitch? To me, it's a reminder that this isn't reality. This is a memory inside of a memory, twisted and altered by Mother and Dasein lurking beneath everything. Nothing is going to stay fully stabilized. But shaking it off, Daniel makes his way to the clerical office to track down evidence that links Shawn Mendes to the stolen company data. Find the evidence so that we can bring Shawn in for interrogation. It's straightforward, after a few puzzles. And I hate puzzles. But eventually we get what we need. But Daniel's vision would start to blur. He stumbles, clearly overwhelmed, and that's when he sees Shawn just casually walking down the hallway. Daniel gives chase, but Shawn vanishes. The entire institute would begin to disappear, replaced by a singular door floating in the middle of a black void. And when Daniel steps through, we see a representation of Shawn's past. The scene plays out like a fragmented memory reel. Shawn once had a family, a wife, a beautiful daughter, back when he was a respected physicist at Leviathan, when things were stable, when he had a future, but tragedy hit and everything fell apart. Taking an elevator down Shawn's memories, we see Shawn running experiments and conducting research on Dasein. And that's when we hear the recording.
Understood. Professor, is there a way to free his consciousness from that huge body? Just like you and...
She's trying to figure out how to get Lucas's consciousness out of the monster that he has become. Pressing on, we hear another recording. It's Shawn this time, begging not to die.
I want to die. I don't want to die. Daniel, I still have a child.
And even for us, this is still kind of eerie, because this recording, this memory hasn't happened yet. I mean, it technically already has, we're just not at that point in time and space yet. But walking through a darkened hallway with multiple Lucases, one of them grabs Daniel and tosses him like a rag doll into the next room. And I think this just shows how much fear that Shawn has of Lucas, because Lucas is a memory that haunts Shawn, and in the room Daniel lands in, we see a man strung up on a meat hook with his right leg being torn off. And I'm pretty sure this is Shawn. It is brutal, graphic, and if you're using an ultra-wide monitor, tough luck because you're not going to be able to see the full gore. The game cuts the frame out, and that's what happened with me. But this also checks out because we know that Lucas ripped Shawn's leg off. And this is the moment that started everything, leading to his demotion, his financial collapse, the broken family. But I want to know how Lucas got out, or if this was just part of another plan. But we do know that Shawn filed a formal report claiming that it was a scientific research-related injury. Leviathan denied it, made him a clerk. The rest unraveled pretty quickly. His wife left, the bills piled up, his daughter was caught in the middle of it all, and then one day, a letter shows up. Somebody was offering Sean money in exchange for Dasein samples. Sean had nothing left, so of course he took the deal. It was either that or fail his daughter completely. I still don't know who sent that letter, but I think it could have been Brian. I think he still needed to gather Dasein in order to create karma. Or it could just be somebody else entirely, somebody we haven't met yet. Pushing further into Sean's mind, the cracks in the system which start to show. We see how Leviathan slowly drives its people insane, how the endless surveillance and the hollow routines and the mental grind break them down piece by piece. The symbolism is all over the place. Workers turning into mindless drones, losing their heads, eyes watching you from every angle, the soul-crushing effect of a 9-to-5 job that demands obedience and offers no humanity. Dropping through a floor, we fall straight into the memory of his daughter. She was left alone for 3 days, starving. Her mother never came back after abandoning the family, and at this point, Sean is probably already dead. Now, Leviathan did send a letter to inform her mother of everything, supposedly so that she would take care of the girl, but the fact that the letter ended up at the house instead makes me think that she never got it. And the rats surrounding Sean's daughter? Yeah, it doesn't look good. That, paired with the eerie silence in the house, makes me think that she died alone. The letter did mention a forced relocation a week after the receipt of the letter, so maybe somebody did come for her, but that was like a week later at best. Maybe. It's left unclear, and I don't know how long a kid could last without food or water, but exiting that loop, we step into a new space filled with eyes, giant eyes, dozens of eyes on the eyes, staring without blinking. It is nightmare fuel. I mean, just look at it. Are you seeing this? Are you looking at it? Look, just look at it. It's something that you see during a bad trip. And when Daniel moves toward a door, Lucas appears. And that is how Daniel falls out of the memory. Waking up back at the Winston Research Institute, dazed but still functioning, he sends the evidence and walks his way back to the Thought Bureau. The streets outside are bleak, dark and dreary, dystopian. The people are visibly depressed and oppressed, worn out by the weight of Mother's control. But right in front of the bureau, a crowd of crazed fanatics cheer for the public execution of so-called traitors. Another day in Leviathan's utopia. Daniel waits his turn to interrogate Sean, who's already in custody. And while he waits, another agent starts trauma dumping on him. The guy starts opening up about how messed up brain diving actually is. He describes it like his body's being ripped apart, obliterated, atom by atom. And every time he enters a mind, he feels their pain, guilt, and fear, and it never goes away. It sticks with him, leaves him cracked open. And he begs Daniel not to tell Mother what he said, terrified of what she would do if she found out that he was mentally disturbed.
I just don't know who I am sometimes. I mean, when I dive into their hands, merge with them, those people, my body's obliterated in the blink of an eye, then bam, I'm stuffed into another body. Those smells, those sensations.
Rome Agent 5089. Please report to dive room 6.
This is like some sort of wicked pick-a-card game.
What?
You never know which cards you're going to pick. But here's one thing for sure. They're all the absolute worst. After that, those curses are with you. forever.
Hey, calm down.
Rome Agent 8490. Please report to dive room 2.
Hey, sorry, I know we're not supposed to talk. Please, don't tell Mother, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Working as an observer in this system, Redux often calls for psychological assessments which Leviathan routinely conducts to ensure that there are no fissures in the psyches of their lambs. Brain dives are often dangerous for all individuals involved, and after leaving the psych eval room, we would even hear a conversation between two agents standing on the side about one Rome agent who turned into a potato after a brain dance. It seems the more complicated and vexing a memory dive is, the higher the risk of a mind's destruction. What's wild is seeing just how messed up the situation is by looking at a procedure poster that says not to cause more than 2 deaths per week. All around, we see even more evidence of Nightcrawlers succumbing to having their brains fried, just like this one who is seemingly convulsing on the floor. This is the world they live in. You can even get criminally charged for being deemed antisocial. Sitting in the chair, Daniel braces himself for the mental invasion of Sean. When the dive begins, Sean jolts awake, dazed, frantic, and immediately insisting he's being framed. He says that just before he was arrested, he was attacked by a monster. And by now we know that he is telling the truth, that this was all orchestrated.
In response to a report, we investigated your office and found the missing item in your desk.
No, that's impossible. You're mistaken.
We found your fingerprints on the item. Please cooperate and do not try to make excuses.
No, I'm being framed. Just before you arrested me, I got attacked. That monster.
What do you mean?
No one believes me. But that monster really exists. That thing, it took my leg. I didn't think it would show up again. I shouldn't have been eavesdropping on them. They must be the ones who let the monster out. Yes, it must be.
Sean, I don't understand what you're saying. Mother, requesting brain dive.
No, wait! No, wait, what are you doing? No.
Memory capture complete.
No. Please, I beg you, I don't want to go through this again. I don't want...
Memory channel established. Stand by for Rome.
Fred planted the evidence in Sean's desk to get his fingerprints on it. Rachel unleashed Lucas to attack him, and the entire setup was built to lead Daniel right here to this specific moment and this dive, so that Brian's plan could unfold. And as he sits there getting ready to be interrogated, Sean would start piecing things together, saying it was Lucas, the monster, who took his leg, and things start to click. The workplace incident really did happen, just not the way that Leviathan claimed. Nobody believed Sean because there was no proof. Rachel had been hiding Lucas all this time. Sean even talks about how he eavesdropped on them, Rachel and Fred, the ones behind everything. But to Daniel, this is all just noise. He doesn't understand. The whole situation sounds too chaotic, too fragmented. He doesn't have all the pieces. And despite Sean clearly not wanting to relive this memory, Daniel dives in anyway, right into the nightmare. Back in the unconscious again, Dasein materializes in front of him and crystallizes into the first key item, a tape. Picking this up launches Daniel into the first layer of Sean's memory. He finds a recording device already planted in his drawer and plays it. This is a conversation between Rachel and Fred. That is when lights cut out and Sean sees it. The towering figure standing in the doorway. Not just any monster, the monster. It's looking for him.
Why is this here?
What's the test subject status?
Dormant, as usual.
From now on, I'll deliver the bodies around this time. You'll take them to cold storage.
Understood. Professor, I can feel that his body is still mutating from the Dasein injection.
Dasein? We'll try our best to contain the test subject.
Understood. Professor, is there a way to free his consciousness from that huge body? Just like you and...
No. kill me. Don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Sean starts to crawl away, panic in his voice, and then Lucas turns towards him. The chase begins and the only escape is down, deeper into wherever Lucas came from. Sean scrambles through a vent lit by flickering Christmas lights, blue bottles strewn everywhere like discarded vices. When he emerges, it's into an office warped by delusion. There's a bunch of TVs stacked together shaped like a Christmas tree, humming in silence. Orwellian words hang in the air, on signs saying obey. Finding a journal entry, we see that an employee was mentally distraught, but he saw in a newspaper that surgery could fix it. Technically, it did. He did become more stable, but it also stripped away everything else, and what was left was a shell. A worker so tranquil, he barely qualifies as human anymore. His job isn't just something he does, it becomes who he is. It's all he can say now. For Sean, this cycle of soul-crushing repetition would have been unbearable. The slow march of monotony is enough to drive anybody mad. But Leviathan had a solution. Pop a blue bottle. Drink it. Join the rest of the smiling husks, we happy few. Just like school kids with ADHD or depression, they're handed medication, not for healing, but to increase productivity, to reduce defiance, and make them easier to manage. Sit down quietly in your desk, shut up, and do your work. It's horrifying. And for Sean, the psychological toll becomes visual. His head gone, vein-like tendrils grasping into the air. But we replace his head with a TV, just like everybody else in Leviathan's system. No more identity. But even in that madness, his mind is still crying for help. That is when it returns. A heavy banging rattles on the door. Lucas is back. Daniel pushes forward, navigating a maze of tight corridors, falling through collapsed floors and stumbling through doorways. All the while, Lucas hunts him. Daniel struggles to move quickly with his prosthetic leg, another echo of Sean's trauma, but it's not enough. Lucas catches up. He always does. But finally getting away and entering the second layer of memory, we find Sean writing what feels like a final letter to his daughter. It's heavy. He confesses that he spent too much of his life working and not enough of it with her. He regrets every missed moment, every day he let slip by, and now all he can think about is whether she's going to be okay after he's gone. And that is the core of Sean's entire story. Beneath everything, that is what he was searching for. Some reassurance, some hope that his daughter won't pay the price for his mistakes. Daniel then pauses the brain dive. He confronts Sean directly, asking about the monster, because by this point, Daniel believes it is real. They both saw it, they both felt it, they both lived it. That thing wasn't just fear. It was a memory, a presence, but there is still more that doesn't add up and Daniel needs answers. The two of them make a deal. If Sean allows him access into the deepest layers of his mind, Daniel will ensure that Leviathan protects his daughter. And so, they dive right back in. And now we see Sean in the past running tests and conducting experiments with Dasein. And everything seems routine until the lights go out. And when he tries to leave, he sees something strange. Fred, in a hazmat suit, but he doesn't know it's Fred, and he's pushing a corpse through the hallway. It's a corpse meant to be given to Lucas for food. Rachel's voice crackles over the radio when she thinks the building is empty, unaware that Sean is still here. And that blackout isn't random, it is intentional. Rachel's hooked up the Dasein supply directly into Lucas. Sean didn't know anybody else had been working with the Dasein, and suddenly he sees an opportunity, that if he reports this, maybe Leviathan is going to reward him. Maybe it'll fix everything, he gets a promotion, and so he tails them quietly, carefully, but the brain dive would start to destabilize.
I should see what's going on. I could get praised for reporting it. I don't feel so good.
Warning. Dive subject cerebral status unstable.
Sean's real-world mind is beginning to go into shock. Despite this, he still moves on. When he finally catches up, he starts recording their conversation, but that is when a corpse lying on a stretcher falls to the ground, nearly blowing his cover. After Rachel and Fred leave the room, he starts snooping around. Sean hears a recording of Rachel talking about her experiments with Lucas, how she's been injecting and mixing Dasein into Lucas's blood.
Dasein, I'm trying to mix this new substance into 30% of the test subject's blood. Lucas's body is slowly regenerating, but it's also undergoing abnormal changes. His body is becoming ever more deformed. It appears to be related to the food he's eaten. Every time I control him, I feel as if a part of me stays within him, or maybe a part of what's inside him stays in me.
Now, at first, his body did start to regenerate, but it didn't stop there. You see, the more that she used it, the more that it started to deform Lucas. Rachel realizes that the deformities might be linked to the way that Lucas has been staying alive by eating corpses. And with every day passing, his hunger, his appetite for bodies would increase. Soon, one body a day wasn't enough. However, Rachel also explains that she's been controlling him with Dasein. And there's something more than just science going on here, because every time she does control him, she can still feel his consciousness alive. But moving forward, Sean begins to resist Daniel's presence. And I don't think it's because he wants to fight, I think that he's just scared. Terrified of what is waiting deeper inside of this memory, of the memory he's trying to not remember. And that idea itself of somebody being so traumatized that they fight to forget or they don't want to relive the memory is kind of haunting. And as he resists, he starts putting up these obstacles, these mental statues trying to block Daniel's path.
I told you to stop!
Please, I beg you, stop!
We made a deal. Stop resisting, Sean!
But Daniel chops through them, one by one, and every time the axe hits, you can hear Sean's painful screams. Pressing on, we start to see it. Sean's brain fully exposed, twisting and pulsing with Dasein. He gives one final push to try and keep Daniel out.
Why? Why? Why am I the only one who suffers?
Sean! I need to know what happened!
They're pissy. You hear me? I'm telling you to fuck off!
You made a deal!
I have to get back home! I have to!
Grace is safe! Now let me continue!
Let me leave, so I can be a good father. Give me a chance!
You can! Once this is over, Sean!
Please, let me go. I want to go home.
Begging to just go back to his daughter to not have to relive what's about to happen. But Daniel presses forward because they made a deal. He tells him to let go of his foolish ambitions, that there's no escape. Deep inside Sean's psyche, the Dasein has completely taken root. His mind looks like a bomb that's about to implode, unstable, volatile, like a storm converging at the center of a bomb. And then, just ahead, we see it. The containment chamber. Lucas's lair, a place soaked in blood, littered with mangled corpses. It's more like a slaughterhouse than a lab, and the floor is painted red. Lucas is feeding here, or has fed here, over and over again, and this is where Rachel's been keeping him. However, taking one step too far, that's when the monster notices us. And it's at this point that Sean's mind breaks. Not metaphorically, not just in the memory, but literally. The damage is irreversible. Hanging upside down, he tries to resist, to try to fight off Lucas with whatever strength that he has left, but it is hopeless. The shock overwhelms him, and he's dying, laying on the floor. And soon he sees footsteps. Rachel appears calm as a cucumber, and she apologizes. On the left, we can see that Lucas is still feeding, and right above him, we can see that there is a lot of Dasein that's just pulsing above him like a heartbeat from another world. Fading out of Sean's memory, Daniel starts hyperventilating. His eyes widen and he looks up, but what he sees isn't just brain trauma. Sean's head has completely ruptured, not in some clean, surgical way. It's raw, violent, and visceral. Even the word exploded doesn't feel right. It still feels too neat. But it is a mess, and it is undeniably unforgettable.
Sean?
Agent McGovern, we notice that you are mentally unstable. Closing window.
What have I done?
But for Daniel, that is when it hits him. He killed a man. Not on purpose, not out of cruelty. I mean, it's not like he tried to do this, but he was the one who dived in. He is the one who triggered the chain of events that led to this, and Sean did beg him to stop, but he kept going for his job. And now a daughter is going to be left without a father. That realization slams into Daniel like an airplane. So he collapses. The weight of it too much and everything goes black. When we open our eyes, we're back in Daniel's childhood room. The colors here are calmer, warmer, brighter. Time feels slower. And if you look on the wall, you can see that Daniel has height markers, which is a very common thing for kids growing up, to see how tall they were at a specific year. But his is not the only one present, because right next to him is somebody else's. The second name is blurred, but we do know at this point in the video that it is Lisa, another memory that Leviathan erased. Daniel walks out to the kitchen confused as to why his father has been mad at him ever since the event. I think it has to do with the explosion with the Dasein. But we do see that the table here is set for 4. Daniel would tell his parents about an odd dream that he had, that he worked for the Thought Bureau. But what he really wanted to be was a scientist, like his dad. But Brian sort of just disregards him. However, Daniel says that he doesn't want to stay at home anymore, that he wants to go to school. The thing is, Daniel and Lisa has been homeschooled this entire time. Brian and Michelle wanted to keep them a secret. I don't know if they were keeping them a secret this entire time, ever since they were born, or since the accident. I think it's just since the accident. But that is when we hear a loud, heavy knock at the door.
I want to go to school.
Daniel, you know you and...
Is that the tutor?
Shh.
His parents freeze, and you can see the fear on their blurry faces. When Daniel is shoved into the closet, darkness swallows everything. So now it is 1976, 1 hour after Sean's death. Daniel doesn't feel physical pain, but the psychological weight has been gnawing at him and penetrating his mind. He killed somebody, he murdered somebody. And so he starts hallucinating and seeing things that aren't actually there.
Room agent 8490, please report to homeroom for the interrogation of suspect Rachel Weiss.
Now, because Rachel was seen in Sean's memory, that makes her a suspect. Luckily, Rachel is already here. She turned herself in. So Daniel walks into the room, but from the moment he sits across from her, he feels that something is off. She greets him by name, not in surprise, but like she's known who he is this entire time.
Good evening, Agent 8490.
Good evening, Miss Weiss.
Should I address you as Daniel McGovern?
Looks like you've done your research on me, Miss Weiss.
She's got this stillness to her. She's calm, cool, collected, like somebody who's already seen how all of this plays out. Daniel would even acknowledge the fact that she knows who he is, trying to understand how it is that she knows so much, but she barely entertains the question. Talking like somebody who has nothing left to lose, because she doesn't, she starts criticizing the corporation, and Daniel instinctively tells her to be careful, reminding her that Mother is always watching.
Homeroom really is an inviting place. But just like this city, it relies on fabricated illusions to keep cowards in the dark.
Ma'am, I'd advise you watch what you say.
But Rachel doesn't flinch. She doesn't care. I mean, you know what they say. A woman who has nothing left to lose is a dangerous woman. Mother would call them to the interrogation room, and as Rachel rises, she leans in close and whispers something to Daniel, and he's uncomfortable.
What are you doing?
We are all but lost lambs, are we not? Let's go, Daniel.
Advancing forward, Daniel wants to know who Rachel is working with, who else is involved, and what she knows about that monster. However, she doesn't give him any answers. Instead, she says that everything that he wants is in her mind. What we see is the aftermath of Sean finding her and Lucas down below. Freaking out, she calls Fred. Fred tells her to send him the recorder that Sean used, to delete all the files on Lucas, and that he would take care of the rest. Coming out of the memory, Rachel tells Daniel that he doesn't always actually see the truth, that everything he sees in brain dives are the memories that Mother picks out and chooses for the Nightcrawlers to see. And as her eyes above stare at him through the screen, Rachel puts on her own helmet. Daniel panics by the bizarre sight of what he's seeing because suspects aren't supposed to be able to do that. But that is when he realizes he's still trapped in a brain dive. But now Rachel has hit him with an Uno reverse card, and she's about to get 19 inches deep into his memory. I'll be honest, her dive helmet is freaky, and it reminds me of BioShock. Finding ourselves back in Daniel's childhood room, Mother is in the kitchen cooking, her face finally unblurred. Everything feels warm and familiar, but also something is off. After setting the table for 4, exploring the house, we find Brian's office, and tucked inside is a redacted investigation report from 1966. Most likely, it's about the Dasein Incident, the one that changed everything, the one that gave Lisa her powers. Now remember when I said that something was off? The memory is not letting us progress, because Daniel is trapped in a loop, and the only way out is to sort copies of George Orwell's 1984 in the correct order. Because Daniel is trapped in a loop, and the only way out is to sort copies of George Orwell's 1984 in the correct order. Behind the secret passage is what I'm pretty sure was Brian's hidden lab. It even has Dasein stored here in something like a microwave. And then on the other side of the room, we see photos of primates. In the next room over, in the corner, a camera clicks every few seconds, automatically snapping pictures. That is when we hear Lisa's voice cutting through the silence. She tells us to look through the lens to see what is really there. And sure enough, when we do, a monstrous, disembodied eye is staring right back at us. Taking a picture makes it disappear. Picking up the camera, looking on the side, we see Lisa's name. Heading over to the desk, we find a report, one of Brian's early experiments, dated in 1965. In it, he writes about injecting Dasein into Barbary macaques. And by the way, I think those are the same monkeys that we end up fighting in Black Myth Wukong. But this report was about subject D17. After being injected with Dasein, the monkey would injure itself. A few days later, something strange would happen. New limbs would begin to sprout from that wound. But not normal monkey limbs, mouse-like ones, murine. Now why does that matter? Because Brian has been feeding the monkeys mice. The Dasein didn't just help the subject heal and regenerate, it transformed it based on what it was eating. It adapted to whatever the body had consumed. The creature's biology was rewriting itself, just like Lucas. Lucas didn't just heal, he evolved. He ate people, so his body grew more human limbs and even an extra head. However, the experiment didn't end well. D17 died soon after, black fluid oozing from his eyes and mouth, just like Sean. After snapping a photo of another grotesque, finger-wrapped eye, Lisa speaks up. She says she's not going to be able to spy on you now, so I should go. And that line kind of stuck with me, because who was spying? I think Lisa was referring to Rachel, or maybe even Mother. But moving forward, we hear echoes of Kid Daniel and Lisa. They're playing, and it sounds like they wandered down into this lab. At one point, young Daniel even says that he's worried about getting scolded by Dad, which makes me think that this could have been where the Dasein accident happened. I mean, that old microwave with the Dasein in there could have been part of the situation. I didn't get a chance to interact with it, but the implication does feel strong. Back upstairs, everything is dead quiet. Daniel calls out for his mom, but nobody responds. That is when a heavy banging erupts from the door. However, behind us, we're greeted with a grotesque figure. This is a twisted version of his mother. She is hunched, snarling, wielding a knife, and she's got 4 distorted breasts like something from a twisted fever dream, alien dream. It's unsettling. She lunges, and we fall into a different space. Dark water, ruined home. So we're forced to play hide and seek with the witch. The only way to stop her is to take a picture of the giant eye that's on her back. Eventually, as she shifts back to her human form, she asks Daniel why is he still loyal to Leviathan. It's a sharp callback to something Daniel said earlier, that his mother wouldn't be happy knowing that he works for them, and she's not.
I guess, if she was still alive, she'd hate my job. I'm sure she'd say, once you start working for them, you'll become less and less of a good person. I'm thinking, maybe it isn't the job that changed me. Maybe this is just how I've always been.
Why are you loyal to Leviathan? Die! Stay with me forever in this beautiful dream! No, don't!
Also, side note, I just realized that everybody in the McGovern family has white hair. Maybe it has something to do with the Dasein. But white-haired characters are usually OP. And in Lisa's case, it is obvious, because this girl has Franklin Richards level abilities. Brian has genius level intellect, and Daniel, he's there. But back to the dream. With a maniacal look on her face, corrupted mother begs Daniel to stay in this beautiful dream with her forever. She raises the knife, ready to strike. But Daniel uses a counterattack. With a final push, he stabs her first, and so she drops to the floor. After that, Rachel's voice would cut in, chastising Daniel, judging him, and watching him.
You psycho! Do you realize what you've done? You killed your own mother!
No, it wasn't real. I have no memory of that woman. She's not my mother.
Pathetic! Look at your tears, you ignorant worshipper of Leviathan!
No, I won't be fooled again. Get out of my head, Rachel! Now, it's time for me to look at your memories.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not sure who created this corrupted mother witch form. I don't know if it was Rachel or if this was a manifestation of Lisa's doing. I'll explain in a bit why I think Lisa might have been the one to do this, but for now that memory ends as Daniel turns towards the next one. At first, she denies us. The moment we try to enter her memories, she kind of shuts the door, not with like a push or anything, but with sheer mental force. She's not letting us in. She doesn't even let us see details of her old memories. Instead, we're met with hollow stage props, cardboard cutouts of her childhood home. Well, I don't think we should call it a home. I think we can just call it a house. In the corner, there is a giant painting of a raven. By the way, did you know that ravens are actually pretty smart? They have the problem-solving capabilities of a 7-year-old. But I think this painting is a representation of Rachel, and she is nailed down, blood dripping, unable to fly. It is a message, it's a metaphor, something smart, free, and wild, crucified. That is Rachel, caged, stuck in this painting, if you will. That was her entire existence. And just as we're about to raise the camera to confront the eye on its back, we hear them banging from inside of the closet.
There's no use trying to resist. Let go of those foolish delusions, Rachel.
No, you don't get it. You don't.
Put that lousy camera away. You can't use that here. It can't be used.
Daniel urges Rachel to let go, to put her foolish resistance to rest, to drop the act, but she doesn't budge. She just tells him that he doesn't understand. And she's right. Not yet. Because the moment we start peeling the layers back, it becomes terrifyingly clear. Her parents still live here in her mind. Not physically, but in her psyche. They still control everything. They sit in the shadows of her mind, unseen but still all-powerful. We can see her father's arm on the right and her mother's on the left, each a half of the monstrous whole that made her what she is today. Together, they were unbelievably toxic, and in this place, in her mind, it sucks because they still live on, they still bark orders, they still dictate, they still own her. And now, they're telling Daniel what to do. You can't use the camera here, do this, bring me that. In the back room, we see it, a gun. Not just the weapon, but a foreshadowing. Something that will come into play later, whether Rachel wants it to or not. Now, I think that this is weird because this back room is connected to her parents' room. So why is there a peephole in here? Why would they be watching their daughter from their room? That's sick. This is supposed to be Rachel's private space, a space that belongs to her, and unfortunately, we just know that it wasn't. But that whole fact, that little detail that there was a peephole, was sickening, disgusting. But listening to this memory, Rachel is on the phone with Leviathan, who was calling her to offer her employment, a chance to escape a future. But Rachel doesn't understand because she never received those letters. And that is because her parents stole every single one.
Another one.
I'm close to bursting!
They did not want her to leave, not because they loved her, but because they profited from her. She wasn't a daughter to them, she was just a product. They sold her body to men, lined up strangers to use her. They pimped out their own daughter. They took the money, smiled, they even hung seductive posters around her room. It's like advertising for the men that were in her room, but like Rachel had to sleep in that room, she slept in that bed, and she has to look at that. Everything was a constant reminder of what she was told she was worth. All around her bed were men's shoes. Her entire world was reduced to just transactions. It's not just sad, it is perverse. This is evil. And every time a guy would come over to get their rocks off, she would cry, each time.
What are you crying for? It's already done.
It was as easy as I said it would be.
But her parents would just disregard her, telling her to stop crying. It was already over, I told you it would be easy. Or they would try to offer her some drugs, some pills, so that she just wouldn't feel this way. So her parents got rich off of her body. Meanwhile, her body, her reputation, her self-image were degraded, shredded, and spat on. Everyone around her knew who she was, what she did. They saw how her parents made her dress. People would whisper and talk smack about her, and men would catcall her. It is so fucked up. She had such a demeaning and hopeless history. But the stellar thing about her is that she never once faltered, because she was powerful. Never once did she give up on her dream to work as a brilliant scientist, even if she felt like her self-worth and image were eroded. She still respected and cared enough for herself to not let any of this become her. There are many people in life who have had terrible things happen to them. Many accept their situation and give up on themselves, believing at some point that since the world told me that this is who I am and this is what I'm worth, that this is all I have to give, this must really be all I will ever be. But not Rachel. She didn't think that. Because in spite of her parents and the men who abused her, she would still rise above them, melt her past to the ground, and chase her dreams. The world gave up on her, but she never gave up on her. And because of that, she found love. Real love. Through her perseverance. She fell in love in a hopeless place.
Finally, I can leave this.
Rachel, are you ready? Our guests are arriving soon. Why are you so quiet? What are you doing? Listen, today's guests are all honoured guests. You better look your best, do you hear?
Fuck this family.
She got to experience heavenly joy, and even though she was ambivalent, scared that Lucas would be disgusted by what her parents made her do, he still loved her, for her, and he didn't want anything from her except happiness. He wanted her to be happy, and that was it. They would eventually have dreams to live a life away from everything together. They transcended, speaking in bodies, not just a body flopping on top of another one, but two souls making love and intertwining. Now, if you've never actually been in love, that is okay. You will one day, but this might not make sense to you. And if you think I'm overreacting when I'm talking about this, or you think I'm being a simp, 1, I love my wife, and 2, you should probably go back to watching Cocomelon because this channel is not age appropriate for you. I'm sorry, but my channel is meant for a mature audience only. However, judging by the sperm whales entering the sky, which looks like an egg, honestly, I think she could have gotten pregnant with Lucas, which makes what's about to happen all the more depressing. Rachel stands over a dying Lucas, bloody and bandaged. She tells Daniel to join them, that Leviathan is wrong, and how the professor would guide the world into a truly brighter tomorrow. She then commands Daniel to stay put, to stay right where he is until he remembers all of the bad stuff he did in the name of Mother. So Daniel is stuck here, unable to do anything or go anywhere, unable to see anything. He's trapped in this void. Until...
She's mine. Mine. With capacity. Mine. Our daughter. She will never be free. Come closer, young man. You picked up my daughter's belongings. Give them to me. We will take you out of here.
He hears her parents' voice again, beckoning him and offering his only chance to escape. Daniel would move forward, listening to her parents' commands to cut Lucas's heart out and to sever the tubes that deliver the substance, the Dasein, keeping Lucas alive. I think this is also a representation for how Lucas and Rachel are still connected. Even if just by consciousness, he lives intertwined and trying to hold on to Rachel still. Now, at first, Rachel was surprised that we even left her domain expansion, unaware that her parents still had power over her mind and her memories. I think it's crazy how, in real life, parents still have that power over us. Lucas would even try to hunt us down here to stop Daniel, to protect their last bastion of peace. Seeing the Dasein spill and flood all over the place, I have to wonder if we ruined Rachel's plans to let her die connected with Lucas's consciousness. But, stumbling forward, Daniel picks up the same gun from the back room in Rachel's house and uses it to fire into them. In a white flash, we see the memory of Rachel rushing Lucas in through the hospital as pink balloons fill the halls. I think it was a girl. As he bleeds all over the stretcher, she hears Lucas's voice saying that they should meet her parents to get their blessing before they got married. But back in the unconscious, looking at Rachel and Lucas, part of me feels warm, believing that they did in fact die together. Daniel sees it, the key item rising from Rachel's memory, a picture of him. Why did Rachel have a photo of him in her memory? That is when Rachel says that they're all just pawns. Entering the next layer of Rachel's memory, we see that she is talking to Brian and Fred, begging them to help her do the unthinkable, to transfer what's left of Lucas's consciousness into her own body. Now Fred calls it inhumane, but Brian is just looking out the window. Exiting the brain dive, we hear Mother say that she saw nothing, and that is when it clicks for me. Earlier in the memory, when Lisa said,
"She won't be able to spy on you now. I should go."
No, wait! Who?
She meant Mother. Lisa disrupted Leviathan's surveillance, and all of those monstrous eyes that we were taking photos of throughout the game, they weren't metaphors. Those were Mother's eyes. That's why Mother wasn't able to see anything during the brain dive. Brian's plan worked. Daniel saw the breadcrumbs, the office, the whiteboard, the trail that he left behind, and with Rachel brain dead, finally at peace, everything starts to fall into place. Flashing back to the memory of young Daniel again when the agents breached their home, they would see a child's room, and so they would accuse Brian of lying to Leviathan. Daniel's mom, standing suspiciously by the cabinet, would be pulled to the side, and everything goes black again. Back in 1976, it's now an hour and a half after Rachel's death, and Daniel wants answers. And so he goes to Fred's office. Entering the door, it's quiet, empty. To the right, we see a crutch leaning against the wall, and that looks familiar. Outside, we see a blimp of Mother reminding us that she's always watching. And then after looking up the answer to a puzzle, a hidden door reveals another room. And in there, we find Fred. It looks like Brian got his Red Dead Redemption. Fred's still slumped in his chair, lifeless, a photo still in hand. Looking at it, we see Michelle and Brian, a fragment of a family long gone. Daniel stares, but there's nothing, because he doesn't know who these guys are. They're just strangers to him. He scans the room, notes, files, a whiteboard filled with scribbles and sketches and photos, Brian's blueprints laid out in full. The past, the truth, the cycle, and that is when it all clicks for the agent in real life. Not Daniel in his memory, but the actual agent who brain dove into Daniel in the very beginning. He realizes that he's just been a passenger during this entire ride. He was never in control, just a watchman. Just then, Daniel would hear a voice. His mother calling him. When he tries to follow the voice, the world begins to break apart. Everything starts to collapse upwards. He runs back towards the room, but someone was waiting for him. And that's when everything fades again. Waking up, strapped in a chair, across from him is Brian, his father. He discloses everything to Daniel in an attempt to help him recover the memories that Leviathan erased. After which he kneels before his son and says the one thing that every son wishes their father would tell them, that he failed as a father. And I guess it's implied that he apologized, but he explains that all these years he's been planning his revenge, to release karma and wipe Leviathan out, and that he saved his final move for his son. He tells Daniel that he needs to protect his sister, Lisa, but that in order for Lisa to be freed, he also needs to die. Brian explains that he thought of myriads of ways to try and make sure his son lived, but Mother would always find a way to get him, which means that Lisa and her powers would always be in danger.
You must have been here at some point in time, somewhere in the depths of your memory. But Leviathan has altered your brain. These broken images must have made you feel confused at times.
No, stop.
I know that feeling, Daniel. I know, as it is one of the results of my research. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that Mother would eventually apply what I did for her to my son.
What are you doing?
I'm going to bring you back and help you find your lost memories, Daniel. About the very beginning of this whole plan.
Is that what you want? For him to come and look for you?
Wake up.
Daniel, have you really forgotten her?
Shh. Don't be scared, my little brother.
Lisa is your sister. That was the very day that our family was forever separated. This is all my fault. Fred and I were studying the Dasein leak that caused both you and Lisa to be infected. Even though your lives were not in danger, Lisa's body underwent some similar changes.
No, Daniel, no, stop.
Daniel! Your soul and Lisa's are interconnected. As long as you are around, Lisa will never lose control.
My child, you must take good care of yourself. Go on, you monster, do it!
People like Mother and Fred may never appreciate the significance of the soul.
Father.
It's all right, son.
All these years, what have I been doing?
You need to listen. I have failed in my duty as a father. I failed to protect my family. But as a man, I will not spare anyone who dares destroy our family. That's what I've been doing all these years. You need to protect your sister. You know that, don't you?
I do, Father.
No, you don't. After I've gained control of Fred's brain, I finally understood what Mother is really after. She wants Lisa's power. She wants unlimited freedom, but what she doesn't know is you are the key. Mother can only discover Lisa's secret when you are dead.
The key?
Mother will surely know that you have come to see me. I've thought of countless ways to save you. Countless. One day, she'll find out. But there's a way to stop her. I don't know how many people will come to investigate your memory. Your brain will continue to degenerate due to their endless probing, and one day, your memory will eventually collapse. I've planted a consciousness virus in your brain. When others come to view this memory, I will devour them, and subsequently all that Leviathan owns. But the most critical link is missing. Daniel, for that virus to work, we need to create a crucial event. I've not been a good father, Daniel. The thing I worked my whole life to create is the very thing that destroyed the people I love and destroyed this city.
Father, what are you doing?
I hope my death will create the karma in your brain that can put an end to all this. Kill me, son.
Daniel was meant to die, no matter what. And the only way to at least bring Leviathan and Mother down as well was with karma, with the virus, which could only be activated with a crucial event, him killing his father. And then, when agents would come to view this memory, Brian's consciousness, infused with the virus and the Dasein, would devour them. Grabbing his son's hand and forcing the blade into his own body, completing the ritual, karma awakens. Because, right now, an agent is viewing this memory. And so the virus, buried deep in the recesses of Daniel's fractured mind, finally triggers. And as the memory itself begins to collapse, the Rome agent, still trapped in his proto-Daniel body, realizes too late what he's just witnessed, and he's not exempt. And so he begins running. With the memory shattering and the world falling apart, the Nightcrawler falls and laughs off the pain of being stabbed in the leg. But he also takes the time to do a puzzle that he got wrong. Continuing running for his life, he would eventually come face to face with Lisa, who steps forward like a ghost and stops Karma, the virus. She even tells her father to behave. When she turns to the door, we see a scribbled out eye on her back. But as she looks out the door, she says time 3 times. However, she doesn't tell us what she's thinking about. Then she uses her powers to close the door. She asks for Daniel's cassette player, and I think she needed this because it was a vessel for his memories, and by listening to it in reverse, Lisa would be able to find and focus on the tether to her brother, thereby helping the Daniel, in whatever time or space he's in, to find his actual memories. Moving forward, Lisa calls this place a hyperdimensional space tunnel, but it reminded me of the movie Interstellar. Just take a quick look at this scene here. And so, Googling what this is, I still don't know the specifics, but to my understanding, time travel? I'm probably oversimplifying it, but if there are any theoretical physicists in the room, please comment down below. What is this? Are you guys called physicists? But Lisa also explains that Daniel needs to be careful because there are other things here, which I find to be interesting because perhaps it's a foreshadowing of other entities we're going to see in future games. And this really does get me thinking about real life. Like, are there interdimensional beings out there? It seems so far-fetched and sci-fi, but I mean, so were flying planes around a century ago. The future seems impossible until it isn't. Then it becomes the norm. Self-driving cars, vacuum robots, cybernetics. I mean, is Cyberpunk 2077 really that far off for us? Regardless, Lisa explains a few things. They're searching for items tied to Daniel's memories to help her locate the real Daniel. She couldn't appear earlier because her abilities had to slowly return to her as the real Daniel was gradually dying.
Why didn't you show up earlier? Only some intermittent sounds here and there.
I've been gradually regaining my ability as Daniel's condition worsens.
So now you're able to cross over to here.
That's right. I don't think he's going to make it. We need to work harder.
That is why at first all we could hear were bits of her voice, fragments echoing through the dive. Then she tells us that she knows the agent in all different times and that she feels safe letting him inside of Daniel's mind.
Do you know me? I mean, the me in the company.
I know you, in all the different times, so I feel safe letting you come into my brother's mind.
But then she says something strange.
So you won't kill me anymore, right?
No, I don't think so.
That she doesn't think she's going to try and kill him anymore. She is very specific with her wording. When asked if she is actually a child, she's baffled.
Oh, my. Why do you company employees always have so many questions? That's right. I'm not a child.
Then why do you look like a child?
Because this is the only image of me that my brother has in his mind. He's unable to build an image of me the way I am in reality.
How many agents has she talked to? How many times? I'm curious because space and time are just an interesting concept to me. She says she's an adult, but because Daniel only remembers what she looked like as a child, in his mind, he can't visualize her anyway, so she appears as a child right now. But do you remember when I was wondering whether the corrupted version of their mom was a manifestation of Rachel or from Lisa? Well, now I'm leaning towards Lisa. When we find the camera, Lisa reminisces about how she and Daniel used to play hide and seek, pretending that there was a monster's eyeball on her back and the only way to destroy it was by taking a picture. That detail, along with her line about not thinking she's going to try and kill the agent anymore, makes me speculate that she might have been the one who created that nightmare version of their mom in the first place. Maybe she did try to kill him, but then again, why did she help him earlier, hiding him from Mother's spying eyes? That's just a contradiction that kind of sticks with me, but let me know your theories. Finding a picture, she doesn't remember who took it, but she recalls it as her happiest memory. With everything restored, they're finally ready to see the real Daniel. The agent wonders why Lisa doesn't just kill him. However, she explains that by the Eye of Agamotto, in any space, time, reality, or dimension that she's seen him in, he's a good guy, so he gets the pass. But she stops at the door and drops this cold line.
You should know more than I do about how Leviathan operates. If you fail to keep the secret, I'll kill you before it happens. You, in any time, any space. In the past or the future.
When she said that, my eyebrows shrugged, raised, and I was like, God damn. I'm telling you, she has that Franklin Richards level of power. Meeting with old Daniel again, just like he said that we would in the beginning, we see sands of time have not been kind. Everything around him has eroded and his mind has been slipping into desolation. He can't remember anything. Leviathan, the merciless brain intrusions, the Dasein. He asks Lisa for help because he can't see his mother and father clearly anymore. And I looked this up, but Mutter is German for madre, And Otets is Russian for Otosan. So if you're wondering what he was saying in that specific scene, he's speaking in different languages. But this scene is actually kind of heartbreaking, because you gotta remember that Daniel is still mentally a kid. All that trauma, the loss of his family, the brainwashing, it all happened when he was really young. The real Daniel, the one who loved drawing and playing with trains, was broken, left isolated for what felt like an eternity. So here, when he's finally with his sister again, it makes sense that he breaks down and cries. He explains that he tried so hard to protect his lonely castle, the secret that he promised his dad he would keep. His mind palace, his fortress built from sand. But the black waves kept on crashing in. The Dasein, the Nightcrawlers, every dive eroding a little bit more of who he was. Eventually, no matter how strong his mind had been, or how hard he tried to hold on, he just couldn't keep it together. So Lisa does the only thing left to give him peace. She brings his consciousness back to 1966, to a happier memory,
Daniel,
a moment of
Lisa,
light.
It's time to eat.
Kids?
Mum, let me help you. Dad?
What is it, Daniel? Hurry up and sit at the table.
Dad, hurry.
Understood.
Go give him the camera. Go give him the camera. Thank you.
A place where the agent would take a picture, the family photo. December 27, 1984. After the karma virus infects the Thought Bureau, the agent takes off his dive helmet and with a quiet smirk, he raises his coffee in a toast. Not to victory, not even to surviving, but to the truth, to what was buried, to what Leviathan tried to erase. Because in the end, that is what karma is about. It's not just another dystopian Blade Runner story of corrupted systems and corporate tyranny. It's about people, broken people who were denied peace, stripped of their stories, who still managed to leave behind echoes that the machine couldn't quite silence. And deep inside the corporate labs of Leviathan, Daniel McGovern's real body would die. 28 years old, submerged in Dasein, brain dead after years of being used, copied, broken apart, dive after dive. He never got out, never woke up. He dies for real, and he's finally free from the vicious, relentless, merciless cycle. And for me, a dude playing the dude dressed as another dude going into another dude, I like to think that he gets to stay in that brighter timeline or space that Lisa took him back to. When the real Daniel dies, something in Lisa reacts. Her power unlocks and she is no longer inhibited. She is unleashed. Somewhere else in the facility, she vanishes. No alarms, no resistance, not that any of them could have stopped her. One moment she's there, in containment, controlled, and the next, she's gone. Lisa disappears, but her voice lingers. Rachel dies, but her grief rewrites everything. Daniel never wakes up, but his memories find a way to speak. And the agent, who was an anomaly, got out, unlikely to continue serving what's left of Leviathan. As the screen fades, we're left with one last message. The story is not over yet. So I can't wait for the next game, for the second game, and everything that comes after it, because I want to see what more lore is in this world. It is such an amazing game that, again, for me, it came out of nowhere. If you made it this far, let me know. Should I do a psychoanalysis on Rachel? And if you enjoyed this video, click the next one on the screen, because again, it was the Silent Hill-esque vibes that even got my attention in the first place. So, you might like this one.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place.